الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين على المر الأيام والليالي والشهور والسنين أما بعد. As we continue this great treatise by the great Imam Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, the one who died 852 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. But today is Saturday. Sabt was now technically Sabt, the evening of Saturday. The time now is 7:25 p.m. Saturday, May the 18th, 2024 of the non-Muslim calendar, with a non-Muslim date, with a Gregorian date, which agrees with the Tarikh al-Islami al-Hijri, the Islamic date, which is the date of us, the Muslims, the 10th of the Qa'dah, Sabt, the year 1445, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. As we were in the midst of discussing the impermissible type of marriages, as we were discussing the narration, or rather we finalized the explanation of it, the hadith of Abu Hurairah, which has been collected in Bukhari and Muslim, where we said the message of Allah gave us clear instructions of what women we can marry. And you'll find that Islam, like we said, has been laid perfectly, laid out, giving us clear instructions and guidelines and decorum and protocol of what to follow. So the message of Allah in this narration, everyone, he said, لا يجمع بين المرأة وعمتها ولا بين المرأة وخالتها. Does not gather between a woman and her paternal aunt, nor a woman and her maternal aunt, nor a woman and a maternal aunt. We also added with that the sister, because that comes in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa. As you'll find in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in his book, وَأَن تَجْمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْأُخْتَيْنِ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ. That you gather between two sisters. That you gather between two sisters. So you'll find in our religion giving us clear instructions of what is permissible or who is permissible for us to marry of women within the Sharia and within the hudud, within the limits in which Allah has set. And transgressing those bounds is what causes corruption and chaos within the earth. So, we mentioned last class pertaining to the qaribat, or the relatives. And we talked about the illah, the reason of why these matters have been made unlawful. And we said number one is out of worship of Allah. Did you find your spot? Did you find it here? You'll find that it says in the narration, or the reason, everyone, the illah, the reason of why these matters have been made unlawful. We said number one is out of ta'abbud. Number one, the affairs is not to know the wisdoms of why. That's not the origin of what we embraced Islam for. We embraced Islam for submittance to Allah. Submittance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unifying Him in His worship, and knowing that our Lord is all wise, and He's all knowledgeable. Are you guys finished yet? And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise in what He legislates, and that we submitted to the proper guidance that He has revealed in order for mankind to be guided aright. So number one, the reason why we follow this protocol, this legislation, is out of worship of Allah and submittance to His infinite divine revelation and His wisdom and His knowledge that's complete. Because this is from our firm belief in our Lord, that He knows of what will rectify mankind and what will be the solution to their problems and what will allow them to be rightly guided and join themselves as human beings in this world within the limits that Allah has set, and that there are certain affairs that is considered transgression. That if they transgress, it will anger our Lord and it will cause mischief and corruption in the land. And from those matters is what we just mentioned. That one cannot marry, like we said, 3 of what was mentioned in these narrations. As you'll find from the great Imam, from the great Imam Shaykh Salih Fawzan, Ibn Abdullah al-Fawzan, that he mentions concerning this, he said, al-Jama' meaning gather between them at the same time. Between these relatives, he says it will cause severing the ties. Yusabbib qati'at al-rahm. It will cause severance of ties. He said it is known the jealousy of women over their spouses. So you'll find that's what we mentioned last class, where we stopped. We said, فَإِذَا طَلَّقَ زَوْجَتَهُ طَلَاقًا بَائِنًا. If he divorces his wife, a final divorce, meaning it has to be the third divorce, or that khula' or what have you. But we'll just mention with the context what we're saying here. If he divorces her, what they call talaq ba'in, the third divorce. Not talaq raj'i, talaq ba'in. Once the woman now has finalized her waiting period, now it becomes permissible for him to marry what? His sister, or what we said last class, the maternal aunt, or what? The maternal aunt. So, either that woman currently who he's married to, she either passes away, or, as we said, number 2, what is what, everyone? That, exactly, that the divorce has to be finalized. The divorce has to be finalized. Here, in that instance, it's permissible for him, once those affairs have been completed and executed, it is permissible for him to marry these women after the fact. But as long as he's married to her, for example, the first divorce or the second divorce, and we'll talk about those details when the time comes, it is not permissible for him to marry any of them. Even if it was considered what they call talaq raj'i, the take back, what they call divorce, meaning the first and second. Divorce his wife, then maybe they might have resolved their issues, and he just takes her back. And he says, I take you back. When that's in the first and second divorce, as we know. We'll talk about that, like we said, when the time comes. But as long as that affair is taking place where she's in the iddah of the first and second divorce, he's not permissible for him to indulge where he marries between these relatives at all. So, as we said, فَلَا يَجُوزْ لَهُ أَن يَتَزَوَّجَ قَرِيبَتَهَا حَتَّى يَنْتَهِيَ النِّكَاحُ نِهَائِيًا. It's not permissible for him, as we said, to marry her relatives at all until, like we said, the marriage has been finalized, a final divorce. In that instance, is what they call, like we said, the first category we mentioned last class was what, everyone? Tahrim ila al-abad. Or if we want to start with the first one, we said tahrim ila what? To a certain extent or a certain time period. That's what we said last class. They call tahrim ila amad. Amad. Alif, mim, da. Tahrim ila amad. Tahrim to a certain time. Or tahrim, or the forbiddance to a certain time. Or forbiddance to a certain time or a certain extent. And we just gave the examples of this based upon this narration. Then you have the second category, as we said last class, which is what? Tahrim ila abad. Forbiddance forever. Forbiddance forever. And we know, we just gave the examples of that from last class. For example, as we said, the mother, or, for example, the mother's what? Daughter. Those are impermissible forever. The only exception, as we talked about, is we said, for example, with the mother, that if the mother has a daughter, and let's just say he embarked upon proposal, but he never, of course, he never married her, nor did he what? Nor did he consummate. Exactly. Nor did he consummate. If he didn't consummate the marriage at all, where he never had any intimacy with the mother, and that never had taken place, then he can marry still what? Can marry the daughter. As long as those affairs did not take place. So we talked about those type of rules, and we'll talk about that, like we said, when it comes. We wanted to take the time out, as you'll find that the great Imam, that he took the time out to enlighten our sisters in regards to plural marriages and why they've been legislated. You said you'll find this hadith, as we've been discussed, لا تنكح المرأة على عمتها ولا على خالتها. He says in the narration that a woman is not married over her paternal aunt or her maternal aunt. He says يدل على جواز التزوج بأخرى إذا كان غير هاتين المرأتين. إذا كان من أجنبية, we already talked about that. فليس بينها وبين زوجته أخوة ولا عمومة ولا خؤولة فله يتزوج ثانية وثالثة ورابعة. He said in this instance, of course, you'll find that the woman, for example, that has nothing to do with the family at all, meaning someone that's normally what we do here in these communities and other countries, of course. You marry and find a woman that's not connected with her family, for example, that doesn't have any brotherhood or aunthood or from maternal aunthood, for lack of better words. We know that a man in Islam can marry four wives. That's the origin. Not girlfriends, wives. Not girlfriends or boyfriends, wives. It's a shame we have to say that too, right? But in these days and times, you'll find, like we said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making His signs become clearer and clearer of why He's legislated these matters. Even though some of our sisters have a reluctancy in this regard. And like I've spoke about in lectures, I don't think that certain women are mad at the affair or they find disdain to the affair of plural marriages in its origin. Rather, they hate of how some of our brothers go about it, where the girl becomes his girlfriend, or the woman or the sister, rather, becomes, inshallah, the sister in Islam, is his girlfriend, and then he marries her. And then finds out certain things were taking place behind the scenes. That is the thing that aggravates and makes women angry. That they found out that their husband was conducting in a manner that was inappropriate with a sister, doing something he shouldn't have been doing with her, and then finds out later, after the fact, that he's been doing certain things behind the scenes. As they say, وَرَاءَ الْكَوَالِيسِ وَتَحْتَ الدَّهَالِيسِ, as they say in Arabic, meaning behind the scenes and under the tunnels. Certain things have been going on that shouldn't have been done. And then all of a sudden, the husband, you'll find that he tries to make the first wife be friends with the second wife, she was previously his girlfriend before he married her. So then, these are the things that anger the first wife, and that's what now puts a bad taste in her about what everyone, about plural marriages. So those are the things that angry women. So if you talk to some of the sisters, they say, I don't like and detest, I detest plural marriages. And we say, sister, fear Allah, that's a statement of disbelief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated these affairs, and you see the benefits of it, which we'll talk about in a minute. The more benefits you'll find that, brothers and sisters, the great Imam took the initiative to explain and clarify that plural marriages actually benefit the women more. Certain people will say, how? The men think it's for them. Actually, the men is more of a burden on them because they got to spend more money. You understand? They have to spend more money and they have to put more work in it. And then it gives the first wife a break. You understand? We'll talk about that in a second. Don't worry. But the point of the matter is, when I've had the opportunity to speak to certain sisters in this regard, she said, I asked and reminded them, that's a statement of disbelief. You can't say you detest Allah's religion and detest what Allah's legislated. And they'll say, oh, that's a statement of kufr? Yes, it is. That would nullify your Islam, that statement. To say that I detest Allah's, or I detest polygyny and plural marriages. I detest it. That's a statement of disbelief. So then you remind them, teach them that's incorrect. Well, then you get to the bottom of it, investigate. You'll find out the reason. They said, well, my husband was messing around with some girl, and then I found out the girl's making fun of me, humiliating me, and my husband is letting me be humiliated and being disrespected, and I'm getting weird phone calls on my phone from some mysterious phone, some phone number that I don't know what it is and where it came from. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So my thing is, these are the things that then you'll find, she said, now pictures are popping up on the internet, social media, with my husband, and I'm like, who's this girl? And people are sending me things, and I'm like, and I don't know what's going on. I'm in the house minding my business, in my own quarters, taking care of my kids, trying to tend to my own affairs, and somebody's harassing me and bothering me. And this is the thing that I tell brothers. Brothers, why are you letting some outside woman disturb your peace with your first wife? I don't care if you're doing haram. You're doing haram, that's worse, of course. But why now does your wife, your first wife, got to be oppressed now? Why you let her be oppressed? You need to check these people. Check them at the door. Check them. You doing haram? That's the thing you want to take on the chin. You was doing something displeasing to Allah. You don't let now someone as an innocent bystander be oppressed because of you doing something wrong. You don't ever do that. You check everyone at the door, men and female. Don't you ever do that. But these are the problems where men have become cowards and spineless. They scared to put people in their place. So now, this woman you messing around with, she now has some type of gall. You've opened up the door. So now what happens is, the first wife, now it's all this nonsense of getting these mysterious phone calls on my phone. I'm getting all this, my husband now is moving real weird. What's going on now? Because women know when men are doing something because usually what? The pattern changes. The pattern changes. Your wife knows you. Your first wife knows your pattern, what you usually do. Now you're going outside your pattern. So now they know something's off. Oh, here we go. Who's he doing? So now you're fine. So now the husband, like we said, is doing something he should be doing. Now some mysterious woman is popping up at the door and banging on the door. Here we go. Now coming to the house. Now she's transgressing the boundaries. Oh, so many stories. So many things now happening. All these mysterious phone calls. I'm getting these weird followers on the social media page. These mysterious women are starting to follow me out of the here we go with the drama. That your wife is really in her own world now trying to figure out what's going on. So these are the things, brothers and sisters, what I'm trying to say is why what? Why women hate or they detest what? Polygyny. This is it. This is the reason. Because everybody is tired of the drama. They're tired of the nonsense. It's like, why can't people just want to be families and work together? This is all going to help our community be stronger, build our families, so we can now find women we can marry our sons off. Women to marry our sons off to. Find daughters that we can marry men to marry our daughters off to. All these issues has destroyed our communities to the point nobody can find nobody to marry anyone off to. And it's so bad to the point now, it's even amongst ourselves. So you see the final result of all this nonsense. You see it right in front of us now. Nobody wants to get married. Nobody can find anybody to get married to. And they can't find anybody to marry their children off to. This is the result of the nonsense. And that's the reason why, like we said, the polygyny has been legislated. It's to bring families and to alleviate these type of social ills within our societies. So listen, I wanted to mention this, so just keep that in mind. So, brothers, that's the thing that I think a lot of women have a disdain for. Not the fact that they dislike polygyny itself, but due to how some of our brothers go away or how they conduct about it, how they do and handle the affair, how they conduct in the affair is what turns them off. Even though, like we said, the statement, I hate polygyny is a statement of kufr. So sisters, keep that in mind. That's a statement of disbelief. That will nullify your Islam if you utter that. If you say you truly believe it. You have to realize Allah has legislated this matter clearly for the benefit of mankind. And as I'm going to talk about the benefits of it, the benefits of actuality is for you. That's what I'm going to explain in a minute. The benefits of polygyny is for the women. People will say, well, how? Well, like I said, we'll explain it in a minute. So, the legislation of ta'addud al-zawjat. Now listen to the great Imam Sheikh Salih Fawzan says about this. He said, وَالْمَصَالِحْ فِي تَعْدِدِ الزَّوْجَاتِ كِثِيرَةً لِلزَّوْجِ وَلِلزَّوْجَةِ. He said it's for the husband and the wife, the benefits of it. He said because if a man now is restricted to one woman, like the bid'ah or the innovation of the Christians, despite the multiple number of women, He said a lot of the تَعَطَّلَ كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. He said a lot of women now will be what? Void of being taken care of and all the other, and being deprived of the benefits of being a human being. Because everyone knows that women in society are more than men. Women in society, their number is more than men. He said it's known. He said for women now will be what? تَتَعَطَّلَ النِّسَاء. Women will be broke down. وَتَحْصُلُ الْعُنُوسَ وَالضَّرَرَ. He said the word al-unusa is when a woman is in the house without a husband until the point she reaches her 30s and 40s. That's called unusa. Unusa become an anais. He said, so this unusa will take place when women start to become older without any husband to take care of them, or any man to take care of them, and they're remaining in the house, and harm will take place. He said, because women are in need of kafala, of being taken care of, and they're in need of what they call qawwam. A man, of course, men taking care of them, taking care of their needs. فكان الرجل يقوم على 4 فيه إسهام في القضاء على العنوسة. Said that the men, of course, when they now are responsible for 4, for verily it is an arrow or weapon to destroy what they call unusa. Men, women meaning men, men, I keep saying that. Women being in the house to the point they reach an age of 30 and 40 and 50 without any man to take care of them. So now women will become what? Deprived. Now listen to what the great Imam goes on to say. This is the point that I was mentioning a moment ago. Listen, everyone. He said, في هذا في مصلحة النساء أكثر من. For that is the benefit of the women is more than him in regards to the benefit of the men. He says, why? Because now men will have to take on the responsibility and the spending and the earning and taking care of those women. وَالْمَرْأَةَ تَسْتَثْمِرُ. Now the woman also benefits, where she will have spending, she will have a residence, security, safe, in a safe place to live, and her affairs being taken care of. And this is from her benefit. And everyone knows naturally that women, everyone knows the nature of women, that there are certain times within themselves in the month that they don't want their husbands to be around them. They don't want them to see certain things. Because that's just how women are. Naturally, there's certain times they just want their husbands to be out the house, and a certain time frame, don't be around them. Just go ahead and handle your business. But however, if it's restricted to one, you're always around, even during those times where women don't really want you to be around. Because there's certain times, if it was a natural woman that hasn't been destroyed by society, and they maintain, of course, there's certain times their femininity, they want to take some certain times to just sometimes get a rest. Women that really are truly women sometimes need a break. They need a break. They need a break from all the affairs of the domestic affairs, of being a woman. If a woman was truly a woman in her natural instinct and was left where she didn't have to now take on the burdens of society, it is very, very hard to be pleasing to your husband on a consistent basis, where you'll find that sometimes they want to let their hair just be wild sometimes and not let their husband see it. So they can just get a break. So get themselves together, and then when that time frame comes and she's relaxed, come back. Those affairs of polygyny allows those affairs to happen. If women were cooperating with one another, everybody would get a break and everything would be balanced out. So those are the matters, everyone. Like we said, he said that the benefit of the women is more than the benefit of the men. Why? Because the men have to now take care of these households, and they're the ones that's going to have to come out of their pocket. So, but the women are being taken care of. He said, because the men in society, يَعْتَرِيهِمْ آفَاتٌ أَكْثَرُ مِمَّا يَعْتَرِ النِّسَاء وَتَطْرَأُ عَلَى الرِّجَالِ حُرُوبٌ وَيُوَاجِهُونَ أَخْطَارًا. Men, usually, they tackle what they have to now take on the burdens of society. Is a lot of factors that are more than women that now usually happen to men, such as, for example, war. Wars, the initial affairs that men put themselves on the line for what? For defense of their family and their what? And their loved ones. They're the one that sacrifice their lives and put themselves on the forefront for the defense of their families. It's the men. Men are supposed to do that. That's their job. Their job is to what? Provide and what? Protect. Provide and protect. Not these cowards these days But when we're talking about real men with a spine, they're the ones that put their life on the line. You understand, everyone? They're the ones that extend themselves to be sacrificed for the protection of their family, the protection of their loved ones. So the great Imam, he goes on to say, they're the ones that take on the dangers and the dangerous affairs. And what usually happens in the course of history, men are the ones that more than likely die more than women, because of the war. وَقَدْ يَمُوتَ الْكَثِيرُ مِنْهُمْ فِي الْحُرُوبِ وَفِي الْحَوَادِثِ. Said the men, a lot of them, they die in war. And they die in dangerous jobs they have. Dangerous employment and jobs they have. From the going up on the electricity lines and in the high buildings. Those are all risk at your life. In order for everyone to have benefit within society. They're the ones that go in the sewers. They go in the disgusting, filthy holes to make sure that the females can enjoy the house where they can be feminine. You understand, everyone? The men are the ones that's supposed to do those things. That's the reason why, like we said, as a result, a lot of the numbers of men become decreased. So the women, as a result of it in the society, if they was to follow the bid'ah of the Christians, that the women would be considered awanis. And I just said the meaning of the word awanis. It means to sit in the house, not married until you become old. And that is the reason why the legality of what they call plural marriages, that it removes this problem. And the non-Muslims know that. They know that. But however, the true solutions in society, they don't want it because it's not It's not lucrative. It doesn't benefit their pockets monetarily. But they know polygyny will remove a lot of these social ills. They know it. He says, similar to that, the benefits, if you'll find that he goes on to say, يَعْتَرِيهَا الْحَيْض. Women also has a monthly cycle. They have postpartum bleeding. After they are pregnant, they give birth. And what usually happens, listen to what the great Imam goes on to say, يَتَعَطَّى الرَّجُلُ الَّذِي لَيْسَ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا وَاحِدًا وَهُوَ شَابٌ أَوْ قَوِيٌّ الرَّغْبَةِ. He said, for a man now, for a woman that has that postpartum bleeding after she gives birth, men now lose out on if he had one. And we usually know that women, in order for their bodies to repair, it takes some time, especially after she has a baby. She's not the same. It takes some time for her to get herself back together. He says, and the man in that instance might be young, a youthful one, with strong desire. And there's certain men, of course, that have strong desire. And if a man, of course, have more than one wife, then that affair will be taken care of. And that will raise the harm off of him. It will take the harm off of him and the struggle off of him. He said also it's known in society, naturally, that women reach the age of what they call al-iyas, عند الخمسين وتنتهي الرغبة فيها. It is known amongst, which is natural in every society, that women reach the age of what they call what? When they reach that age in their 50s or their late 40s, what they call what? Sin al-yats. What they call now, what is it when they start to get hot flashes? Menopause. That's the word I'm looking for. He said they reach the age where they now have what they call menopause. And they're now in their 50s. And those affairs now become naturally where she doesn't have those affairs in order for human beings as far as her reproduction and desires and all those things as she used to. He says, as for men, Allah created them different. They can go for a very long time. If they take care of their bodies, they could be desires and make a family even at the age of 50 and 60. It's known. If they take care of themselves, of course. If they take care of themselves, you'll find, like we said, they can continue for very long, extended periods of time. I just know a friend of mine now, he's in his late 50s and he had 4 kids. He's in his late 50s. Somebody in the UK. So that is to show what? That the type of affairs of society, إِلَا يَبْلُغَ مِنَ الْكِبْرِ عِتِيًا. He said that men could continue to reproduce, he said, all the way up till he becomes elderly. He says, so now, he says, is it befitting that certain men that have the ability, that have the monetary ability, of course, to just remain the rest of his life deprived of what? Of lineage, even though he might want more. And there's nothing wrong. Like we said, everybody's situation is different. Certain men, they want a lot of kids. They want 20, 30 kids. Certain men, of course, want less. Everybody's different. But the point of the matter is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everyone, has allowed this affair to be legal, and that affairs have been set perfectly in our religion and in the affairs of Allah's legislation. In contrast to the wisdom of the disbelievers, in which they think like one, that's what's legislated and that's what's proper. All of that is considered from the innovative practices of what was newly introduced into the religion, in which you see the results of it is what? Immorality. The results of adopting their so-called ways, to the point, how many from the non-Muslims that we hear from years of having mistresses on the side? All day long. Mistresses after mistresses after mistresses after mistresses. Why? Because they know that this affair of what? Polygyny is what's going to remove that problem. And also removal of the filthy porn industry and all the other filth that they make as a reason to make people overly sexually driven and removing sexual desires to the point it's raised way beyond its boundaries. To people just become like savages. And all of it is from this filth of the West. All of it is from the filth of the West. So let's keep going. He said, it is known amongst the prophets and the messengers, he said that they had multiple wives. He said it's known. Prophet Sulaiman and others from the prophets, that they had multiple wives. And they were the best example for humanity. So it wasn't just something specific, bishari'at al-Islamiyah. It was not something that was just specific for our Sharia. He said that was from the innovative practice of the Christians that they newly introduced, that Allah did not send down with any authority. They're the ones that prohibited ta'addud, plurality. And it's not from the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. That a person so-called Christian, that he remains upon one wife or one woman, and that everything else beyond that is not legalized or it's not legal. But however, what's the weird thing is that they won't say anything if he has a girlfriend or a mistress, or he's involved in so-called things of affairs pertaining to women, in which is unlawful and considered immorality. Why? Why all these social ills in society? Because they prohibited plurality or plural marriages as it pertains to what? Marriage. So when now something goes against the nature of human beings, now they have to resort to what? Unlawful affairs in order to so-called relieve themselves or relieve themselves of their desires. And this is what you see in these societies happen what? All day long. And so for that reason it says, وَالَّذِينَ يَشُنُّونَ الْحَمَلَاتِ ضِدَّ تَعَدُّدِ الزَّوْجَاتِ مُتَأَثِّرُونَ بِالنَّصَارَى. Those who set attacks against plural marriages, they have been affected by the Christians and the tongues of other than them in their claims that in it is oppression for women. He said, Kalla, nay. This is not oppression for women at all. He said, rather it's a benefit for them. And it's putting everything in its proper place for everyone. And it is good. وَلَوْ قُدِّرَ أَنَّ رَجُلًا يُسِيءُ إِلَى زَوْجَاتِهِ فَهَذَا يُمْنَعُ مِنَ الْإِسَاءَةِ. He says, if it was determined that a man, of course, abuses or is mistreating any of his wives, then this person has been prohibited from this type of mistreatment. And he will be stopped at the hudud of Allah, and like we said, it will be put to stop. If brave men step up. If brave men step up. And we're not talking about societies now where people are spineless. And this is an affair that's becoming detrimental to all of us everywhere. There's no more brave men anymore. Men are just cowards now. If they see someone courageous to say something, they'll feed him all the ammo. You do it. You do it. And I'll just sit back and watch you. And see how it goes. And if it goes your way, we're with you. And if it goes the other way, we're with them. Spineless cowards. And in regards to women being abused, same thing. Women being abused, the first thing we ask is what? Naturally, what's the first thing we turn to? Where's the men? Where's the protectors? You understand, everyone? That's the first thing that everybody naturally, by their natural design and how Allah created them, is where's the protectors? Where's the men at? Where's the men to step up to put the men in a place? Yeah, you got to get some help. No, you can't put your hand on it anymore. It's over. It's problems. But however, the people now know that men are spineless now, it's cowards all around. So that's the reason why these people are able to take advantage not only of the affairs of marriage, but even in our communities. There's no more brave men anymore. And if there is a couple of few brave men that want to step up, they try to feed him the ammo while they sit back and watch. Is that considered being courageous? It's a coward. And you lose respect for what? Cowards. And what's so strange is Ibn al-Qayyim even mentions. You think you're trying to protect yourself, but there's someone so-called individual that you're trying to play both sides of the fence for, he don't even respect you. So you lose out all the way around. So just be courageous to stand for something, stand for the truth. So these are the affairs, as we said, everyone, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made an obligation, adl, that everything be put in its proper place. And to the point where you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even mentioned in this book, wa alaykum as-salam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this book, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ to the end of the ayah. He said, if you're afraid that you will not be just within the orphans, then marry, of course, of what is good for you of 2, 3, and 4. I'm sorry, everyone. And if you're afraid that you will not be just, then just, of course, 1, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the ayah. So that is in order to just give a little benefit, everyone, in regards to the benefits. Don't forget to pray 2 rakat. 2 rakat, tahiyyat al-masjid. Tahiyyat al-masjid.
If بين العصر
والأظهر تحية الركعات وهي من ذوات الأسباب لا علاقة لها بطلوع الشمس. صلي المغرب هذا هو الأظهر، صلي تحية المسجد هذا هو الأظهر.
هي عندنا في البلاد ما نصليها، لكن ركعات تحية المسجد بين العصر والمغرب.
إن شاء الله نؤخر هذا أنا في الدرس. طيب. So in regards to that, everyone, you'll find that the narrations that we said in regards to this is to shed some light in regards to the benefits of plural marriages. And that you'll find, like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom has made these matters for the benefit of mankind. So a lot of the social ills, everyone, that has now become widespread, the way we alleviate it is to return back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated. And that's just to shed some light in this regard, in regards to some of the benefits. But the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in regards to gather between those 3 relatives, and like we said, the narration is clear that at the time frame when you are married to that woman, which is like we said, the sister, that's not permissible, as it says in Surah An-Nisa, to gather between 2 sisters at the same time, nor between the maternal aunt and the paternal aunt until those affairs have been finalized, as it's been mentioned. So let's keep going. I think it's time from the here, is it? Did it come in? I don't think it came in. It didn't? 10 more minutes. Yep, alhamdulillah. طيب, next hadith, everyone. Hadith of Uthman. It's not screen frozen. My screen is frozen. Wow. طيب, so let's keep going. حديث عثمان بن عفان رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينكح المحرم ولا ينكح رواه مسلم وفي رواية له ولا يخطب وزاد ابن حبان ولا يخطب عليه. That the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا ينكح المحرم, that the one who's in the state of ihram, while they're in umrah or performing what? Hajj. Are they performing umrah or performing hajj? As we know, everyone, that is considered the state of what they call halat al-ihram. The sacred state, that is considered a very what? Religious sacred state that one should not transgress certain boundaries. From those boundaries is what's been mentioned here in this hadith. Is it clear, everyone? He says the muhrim is not... Wow. Excuse me, everyone. don't know why my screen froze. He said that the muhrim, that he does not marry. So while one is in the state of ihram, and we know ihram, that sacred state is assumed when a person passes the miqat. And I'm sure that everyone that's performed Hajj and Umrah is familiar with this matter. That when one reaches the miqat, once he now surpasses it, as we said, now one is in the state of what they call ihram. It's not in yet. It's not in yet. Oh. Okay. All right. So once now one has passed the miqat, in that instance, it's not permissible, these matters. The first thing is, one is not the what? Does not marry, nor does he marry anyone off. He does not marry, nor does he marry anyone off. Also, as it says in the narration, وَلَا يَخْطُبْ, nor does he engage in a marital proposal. So that's before the marriage. He does not engage or indulge in a marital proposal. وَلَا يَخْطُبْ. وَزَادَ ibn Hibban, وَلَا يُخْطَبَ عَلَيْهِ. And we'll talk about the meaning of لَا يُخْطَبَ عَلَيْهِ just to keep some type of, keep us on one page. The meaning of it is لَا يُطْرَبُ مِنْ, meaning one does not seek it from them. فَلَا يَقُمْ بِهَذَا بِنَفْسِهِ وَلَا يُطْرَبُ مِنْ أَنْ يَعْقِدْ. Nor does one go to him and seek, like we said, either to write the marriage contract or that he marries someone else off. So that's something that we'll talk about, like we said, in a minute. So all of that is from what they call إِذَنْ فَمِنْ مَحْظُورَاتِ الْإِحْرَامِ الْعَقْدُ وَالْخِطْبَةُ وَالْجِمَاعِ. So now when one is in the state of ihram, from its forbiddance is what everyone, to indulge a marriage contract or a marital proposal or intimacy, sex itself. So when one is in that state, it is not permissible for them to indulge in those type of matters. So you'll find that the narration, it says in this regard, everyone, that the first thing that we want to talk about is from the matters that are also considered from the marriages that are not valid. So this hadith is a type, like we said, for the most part, you'll find that the marriages that we've been discussing are all what? Invalid. We mentioned that. I'm focused. Focus. I got you. We're going to pray. Don't worry. So you'll find, So we said, everyone, in regards to what? The marriages that are invalid, we talked about them. Number one, from the marriages that are invalid is what? If you go back a little bit before we call the adhan, it's not in yet. It's not in yet.
No, I said, like, can you give me permission to make that adhan outside?
So you'll find, everyone, as we said, from the marriages that were invalid, number one is that the affair pertaining, if you go back in the pages, let's count it. So you'll find, number one, from the marriages that are invalid is this: لا تزوج المرأة المرأة, that a woman does not marry another woman off. That marriage is invalid. Invalid with who? With Allah. Number two, لا تزوج المرأة نفسها, that a woman cannot marry another woman off, nor can a woman marry herself off. Those type of marriages are all what? Ankiha batila. All of them are considered what? All of them are invalid. The hadith also Nafi' عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال نهى رسول الله عن نكاح الشغار. Also, the Messenger of Allah prohibited the marriage, what they call the shigar. We talked about the meaning of that, right, everyone? The marriage, what they call nikah shigar. We spoke about that. That marriage also is invalid. If one does it, the marriage is considered invalid. But also the narration that we also explained, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Baaz. That's also a marriage that's what? Invalid. And like we said, when we say the word batil or nikah batil, meaning that nikah that with Allah is not acceptable. So when a person says a nikah is batil, one has to look at it from the perspective of whether or not this affair is accepted with Allah. Don't look at the kuffar, the disbelievers, or the human beings. You're looking at whether or not you being Muslim and submitted to Allah Himself. That's the thing that what is important to you. That is the affair that you're concerned with. Does my Lord see this affair to be what? Pleasing. And does my Lord see this to be what? Acceptable. So that's the things as we said. When these marriages, and we say that they're from ankiha batila, meaning ankihatun batilatun inda Allah. Marriages that are invalid with Allah. Based upon that the Prophet ﷺ said that these marriages are unlawful. And one, if they truly submitted to Allah, they will not indulge in it. But the narration also, we covered from the hadith of Jariyah, the female bikr, that was a virgin, أتت النبي صلوات الله عليه وسلامه وبركاته فذكرت أن أباها زوجها وهي كارهة فخيرها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So it says in narration, also from those marriages that are invalid. But however, it has some details, as we said last class, that the female Jariyah Bikran أتت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. She mentioned that her father married her off, and she detested it. She detested it. So it shows that those marriages by force in Islam are not what? Are not valid, right? Rather, it's not saying it's valid. We can't say that. But the meaning of it is that the Messenger of Allah gave her the choice. They say, do you want to continue it, or do you want to what? Cancel it out or void it out. So that's also from those marriages that could be what? Canceled, and a type of marriage that are considered invalid.